course, it's important to remember how this started. We lost a young man, Michael Brown, in heartbreaking and tragic circumstances. He was 18 years old. His family will never hold Michael in their arms again. And when something like this happens, the local authorities, including the police, have a responsibility to be open and transparent about how they are investigating that death and how they are protecting the people in their communities. There is never an excuse for violence against police or for those who would use this tragedy as a cover for vandalism or looting. There's also no excuse for police to use excessive force against peaceful protests or to throw protesters in jail for lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights. And here in the United States of America, police should not be bullying or arresting journalists who are just trying to do their jobs and report to the American people on what they see on the ground. Put simply, we all need to hold ourselves to a high standard, particularly those of us in positions of authority.
We go now to Ferguson, Missouri, to break up a fifth day of protests following the fatal police shooting of Michael Brown. The unarmed African-American 18-year-old was shot dead on Saturday. Police say Brown assaulted an officer and tried to reach for his weapon. But eyewitnesses say Brown was shot with his arms up as he tried to flee an officer's fire.
At times, the streets of Ferguson, Missouri look like a war zone this week as police patrol the streets in armored vehicles. News photographers captured a striking image earlier this week of a team of police officers dressed in military gear pointing their high-powered guns at a young African-American man who has his hands in the air. Yahoo News reports the Defense Logistics Agency has confirmed the Ferguson Police Department is part of a federal program in which the Pentagon distributes hundreds of millions of dollars of surplus military equipment from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan to civilian police forces across the country.
Now in Ferguson, Missouri, police have arrested at least 2 reporters, and one of MSNBC.com's reporters says tear gas has just been used. Joining me now by phone, Tremaine Lee, national reporter for MSNBC.com. Tremaine, what's going on there now?
Okay, about 10 minutes ago, we were all standing in front of the police line and the paramilitary vehicles, and someone must have thrown a plastic bottle. Something was thrown from the crowd. The police over the bullhorn said this is no longer a peaceful protest. You must disperse. Seconds later, fired tear gas into the crowd. And I was standing about 40 feet away from where the first canisters landed, and it burns your eyes and burns the breath in your lungs. People were running, screaming, and as we were running, it sounded like things were pinging off the walls of the gas station here. So I'm not sure if they were rubber bullets or what. And police have given their final warning that if you do not disperse, you'll be arrested. But the crowd is standing strong. People are coming from out of the apartment complex and gathering in the street, standing. And so as the police line marches forward, you know, it's only a matter of minutes before something is going to go down.
Tremaine, is it clear to people there which way to retreat if they do want to follow that police order and disperse?
Well, it's not, because the line is right at the intersection, right ahead of the intersection of West Florissant and Canfield. And so a lot of the people live back there. My car is parked back there. So there's no way to disperse back home. They're telling people to leave and go to their residence. But the only problem is only half of the apartment complex is on this side. There are other homes on the other side of the street. And so it's not clear where people are supposed to go.
Tremaine, stay with us. Keep that phone line open. We're going to bring in Ryan Riley. He's one of the reporters who was arrested today. He's Huffington Post Justice reporter Ryan Riley. Ryan, joining us by phone also. Tell us what happened to you.
Sure. So essentially, I was at a McDonald's recharging my phone and computer battery, and just sort of working on uploading some things and filing some things. When the police line started marching, when the SWAT team started marching further down the street, and I believe three officers came into the McDonald's and talked to the manager there, and then announced to everyone in the McDonald's that they couldn't guarantee their safety if they stayed. We said that was fine. They left, came back.
Ryan, who else was in the McDonald's at that time before the police came in?
There were customers. I think there were a couple of children at the time. There were definitely a few other customers there. People from the neighborhood. People who were just eating at the McDonald's.
And so, Ryan, there was nothing about the situation in the McDonald's before the police arrived that indicated there would be any reason not to be there, that there was anything unsafe about being there?
Oh, absolutely not. It was a completely calm situation. There was absolutely nothing happening in the McDonald's. The protests were going on, down the street. It's a sort of it's more suburban actually than I expected, honestly, coming in here. And so, probably maybe a half mile, not even down the street, is where the actual protest was taking place. And the McDonald's was just completely calm and operating as normal until the officers came in and decided to clear everyone out. And I think the issue was that he arrested two reporters, but the issue why he maybe didn't like me too much was that I declined to provide identification, just simply because I was taking a photo of him, because he doesn't have justifiable reason to demand identification from me. So I declined to do that, and he moved on before they then came back and decided to clear the store. I think it seemed like they sort of forced the manager's hand in shutting down the store there. And then was told to pack up and was given a countdown. It sort of reminded me of some, the way some parents treat their children and giving them a countdown. And, I would think it was given like 30 seconds to basically get all my stuff up. And I was evidently not moving quickly enough, and perhaps maybe giving the officer a little bit of attitude as he was insisting that I pick up my things quickly and treating me, honestly, as like some sort of enemy combatant. It seemed like with someone who's simply operating it was working on their laptop in a McDonald's, and you come in, and because they're not moving quickly enough, and you have a high-powered weapon, and they have a high-powered weapon, decides to arrest you. It was just such an overreach, and so completely unnecessary and so antagonistic. And so I think that one of the things that you have to think of is, especially if I as a reporter, if we as reporters were being treated this way, and myself as a white man who was treated this way, I can't imagine how they treat members of the community, especially with the lack of diversity on the police force here, and so many issues. They're just really come into focus based on.
And Ryan, the other reporter who was arrested in that McDonald's, Washington Post reporter, did have his press credentials around his neck vividly displayed. Just hold it there, Ryan. We're going to go back to Tremaine Lee because there seems to be some movement there on the street. Tremaine. Do we have Tremaine Lee?
Yo, there's a fight. Oh,
We have someone on that phone. Okay, control room, figure out what's going on with Tremaine Lee and let me know. Ryan Riley, going back to you here, there seems to be some action on the street where Tremaine Lee is, and he can't join us back on the phone. What you're describing is a classic case of false arrest. I've heard both of the accounts of you and the Washington Post reporter who were arrested. And we can only hope that your journalistic enterprises, the Huffington Post and the Washington Post, take false arrest seriously as an inhibitor of press freedom, and that they bring false arrest lawsuits against these police for what they've done. I'm told Tremaine Lee can hear us and is connected to us now. Tremaine, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
What's going on in your location now?
The police, a lot of police officers started marching forward. They started launching off cannons. I'm not sure you can hear in the background the booms and explosions. There's nothing but smoke in the air. People are running back. They're marching on the people who are standing in the street. It's nothing but can't see anything in the street.
What do you think those noises are coming from?
They're stun grenades, and tear gas. The entire is starting to burn now. The entire street is filled with smoke. I can't see 20 yards ahead of me. It's silent. There was a chirping from these machines, and they started launching the stun grenades.
And from what you've seen about the Tremaine, from what you've seen about the crowd's assembly there, is there any rationale you can think of about why they had to be moved and moved urgently this way?
Not this second time. They were standing about 200 yards away, just standing there. At the last of the police warnings, about a minute or two later, the police started marching forward, and I'm not sure what provoked this. They were already about 200 yards behind. Now there seems to be some sort of flare in the middle of the street. There's a cloud of smoke billowing. It's a pretty rough situation. They're crouching down. You're about to hear more explosions.
And Tremaine, is there much light left in the area, or is it dark there now?
It's dark. You can't see anything. And it's made even worse by this cloud of gas that's kind of unfurling from the street.
And are people holding their ground against this, or are they beginning to disperse?
I can't even see. The only thing I can see is I see the officers in the paramilitary gear crouching down. There's still explosion in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear it. The only thing I can see cutting through the smoke is a police helicopter. I don't know if you heard that. They're still throwing off stun grenades. And there's kind of a lighting up there. You can kind of see the silhouette of all these officers, some sitting on top of the armored vehicles with rifles. You can kind of see. Other than that, I can't see 20 yards ahead of me.
The crowd is peacefully standing with their hands in the air, yelling, "We are peaceful, hands up, don't shoot." Here comes the St. Louis County Police Department, continuing to advance their line. We have now pulled back a city block and a half. There it goes. They are now firing onto the crowd. Out! They are firing rubber bullets. They have now fired onto the crowd for a second time. Violence has erupted in the city of Ferguson. They are firing rubber bullets and smoke grenades. The air is thick. Now they are firing them into the neighborhoods, into the back of people's houses.
Escalating with huge shows of force from both police and protesters. And now news crews are getting caught in the middle, hit with tear gas. All of this violence is over the shooting of an unarmed black teenager by a white police officer over the weekend. This video through our satellite feeds overnight, you can see the tear gas billowing into the air as heavily armed police officers patrolled the streets after a late-night face-off with protesters in which Molotov cocktails were thrown. Protesters were told they would be arrested if they didn't go home because they were not being peaceful. Meanwhile, two reporters, one from the Washington Post, the other from the Huffington Post, were arrested while working out of a McDonald's last night. They say police told them to stop recording before taking them into custody. They have since been released. And now to this video. This is actually a television news crew doing their jobs, suddenly interrupted with a tear gas canister. This crew from Al Jazeera America trying to cover the protests when they say an officer threw the canister right at them. You can see they had to run, leave their equipment behind to get away. Racial tension has reportedly been part of the Ferguson community for years. African Americans make up 2/3 of the population of the St. Louis suburb, but they account for 90% of stops by police, and the 53-member police force includes only 3 African Americans.
We we just said hands up, don't shoot.
Is that all you were saying?
That's all we were saying. Hands up, don't shoot.
Were you in the front line up there?
In the front line, yes. And they just start shooting.
As far as, you know, just people being mild, I mean, have people been fairly calm, as you said, compared to other nights?
Complex. Please turn around. You in the red pants, black shirt, please turn around. Walk away.
There's the red pants, black shirt. You can't see her too well on the iPhone, but I had a chance to speak with her earlier. She is very peaceful from what I can tell. Oh, I see this guy aiming a gun. This guy over here on the far car. You see him?
Yeah.
Okay, this officer just decided to aim a rifle. And they got eyes on the guy in the middle, whoever that is. Oh man, okay, so there's a guy walking. All right, I'm gonna... Okay, this guy has a red dot on him. Look right there. You see it? This guy is so far away. Look, I'm gonna show you, right. There's the quick trip, there's the guy who had the red dot on him. Here are the police officers. That is a long ways away. So, you know, the officers are very tense right now, but as you can see, these are peaceful people. You know, they may have some colorful language, a few of them, but none of them are being physically aggressive towards the officers.
You in the middle of the street, please move to the side. Failure to do so could result in your arrest.
All right, so they're telling everybody to get out the street. People are moving out of the street. You can see everybody's getting out the street here. But still, you know, they're aiming guns at people, unarmed people. The police here in St. Louis are aiming guns at unarmed people, putting laser dots on people's chests because they dare walk in a street that's been shut down. So this is what happens. This is what a police state looks like. Yeah, they had rioters out here a few days ago, but most of these are peaceful protesters. You know, like I said, some of them have some coarse language, but they're not a physical threat to these officers. These officers who are hiding behind these big armored trucks with their heavy armor and also with their rifles and such. So more reports at Infowars.com.
Joe Biggs here with Infowars.com in Ferguson, Missouri, now for the 8th day. We're going to continue to bring you up-to-date coverage of what is going on out here. Now, one of the big questions for tonight and pretty much every night, will the police attack the protesters? And if so, are they also going to infringe on the media's First Amendment rights? Because we've been seeing it more and more every day. Now, like I said, this is our 8th day here. This is the first time in the past few days we haven't had a designated media section right over here beside the McDonald's. They have completely cleared that out, and they have only set up an area back at the Martial Law Command Center where you saw us last night on the press conference held by Captain Johnson.
We're not sure who's a journalist and who's not. And yes, if I see somebody with a $50,000 camera on their shoulder, I'm pretty sure.
It seems like there's a lot more activity tonight than there was last night, and that could be due to the fact that another person was yet killed again by a police officer. Justified or not, the people in this town have their emotions running high, and this could affect how things act the rest of the week.
Hands up! Hands up!
Right before everything turned into pure and total chaos in Ferguson, there was calm. Kit began investigating reports of provocateurs in the area around the time I came across a stash of glass bottles sitting under this metallic bin. Instead of getting shot by the cops, because honestly, I had walked across and kicked one and it just made my skin crawl. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna all hear that and they're just gonna start shooting rounds at me. I didn't pick up the bottle. Instead, I walked over to numerous officers and I said, hey, I don't want anything to break out here tonight. I don't want anything bad to happen, but I just want you to let you know I found a stash of glass bottles of the same brand, so they're not just random ones, and they're sitting under this bin over there, like stacked together. They didn't do anything about it. The cops were more concerned with sweeping the media out of the area. So I'm sitting there for a second, it calms down. I run back to the road where there's this like metal wire going across the sidewalk, and I hear, and I'm sitting here looking, and this police officer with no mask, no helmet, anything at all, he's just got an M4 in his hand and he's got it pointed within 2 inches of this guy with a camera, and he's sitting there saying that he was gonna kill this guy, and he said, I'm media, and he goes, I don't effing care. What is going on? These guys are out of control, and they keep telling you on mainstream media, on Fox, on CNN, oh, you know, it was a very peaceful night. Negative. It's peaceful until you guys get out of control. They started attacking journalists. I witnessed 3 journalists get thrown to the ground by multiple police officers and were punched, grabbed, wrangled, hog-tied up, and carried out of there, exercising their rights as media. They were moving when the cops told them to get out of that way. Since I've been here, it has been complete and total madness. The police are against the media because they know the truth will get out, and they do not want that to happen.
What do you think about this, Captain? They're arresting journalists. Yesterday you told us they weren't arresting journalists.
You need to leave.
Now they're arresting journalists.
You're next.
Sidewalk. Now you're arresting journalists.
Sidewalk, please.
I got him.
It felt like such an environment that it was going to get so bad that I felt that I had to choose safety over footage at that point, and I had to get my team out of there. I don't like having my rights stripped away. I don't think anybody that lives in a free country likes that as well. You know, we're here to bring you, the viewer, the people, the truth as it happens. You know, when they keep us from doing that, it sucks.
The thing about it is, they allowed everybody to loot Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I heard. One of the guys we spoke to earlier said the cops were blocking an area and literally letting the masses drive by and then go into the shopping centers.
They surrounded the entire community at each end and let everybody loot and do everything they wanted to do. And
do what now?
Oh no, I was just finished.
I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, this is all a ploy basically to make sure that everybody begins a war with the police, even though they're rioting for you know what I'm saying, for a reason, for a cause. But of course they're going to try to use militia, and they're going to try to use, you know, of course, the facade version of America. You know what I'm saying? The facade version of America just sees a bunch of people running around hectic and just wanting to destroy their community, and that's not what's going on right now.
You must leave to your vehicles, leave to your homes immediately.
Please turn off your video.
I think they say please turn off your video. That's what it sounded like to me.
Did they just tell us to turn off, stop filming?
I think that's what they said, honestly.
Sounded like, listen out, you see the phone. They told us to turn now.
Please turn off
in
your
rural
video.
America. What did they say?
I think they say please turn off your video. That's what it sounded like to me.
Did they just tell us to turn off, stop filming?
I think that's what they said, honestly.
Sounded like, listen out, you see the phone. They told us to turn off our recording.
Trapping everybody in?
They tried to.
Front line of the info war. Joe Biggs, Jakari Jackson, Josh Owens, the front line as they advance on it.
This is apparently a new tactic that they're using. Not only are they shutting down peaceful protests, but now they're trying to, I mean, this was a pre-recorded voice coming out of the MRAP vehicles, I mean, saying, turn your cameras off. So they had prepared for this. They knew there were journalists there. I mean, it's kind of
well, and what happened subsequently, it was very clear that they were targeting journalists, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's just one of those interesting things is that here we have everyone with their cell phones. They can't tell everyone to turn their cameras off. But what happens when they get that kill switch in all the phones that they're just so desperate to get in all of our phones by 2015, in fact. But last night, Big said that he was aware that they were specifically targeting journalists, and they were specifically coming after journalists. We saw them tear gassing journalists. Jakari Jackson was there with Al Jazeera when the canisters were thrown directly at them. You see them preparing to do a live camera shot of a scene there. They are hit with a round of tear gas, and then you'll see footage that shows militarized police then confiscating their cameras. They dismantle their camera equipment, and another officer points a sniper rifle at the fleeing reporters. So you want to talk about looting? The police are looting the press.
Yeah, I want to get Jakari Jackson's take on this because he was standing right there with those Al Jazeera reporters when they did that. And there's an amazing story from Fox News. They said despite reports, SWAT teams helped Al Jazeera reporters, did not take their equipment. They say the SWAT team was actually helping the journalists in Ferguson and not taking their equipment. In fact, last night, this is the sheriff's department that they're, of course, just repeating his press releases verbatim. That's what the mainstream media does. They say, in fact, last night, the SWAT team officers were assisting the media in moving their camera equipment and media personnel to a safer area with their consent, so that they could continue to cover the event. That's it. They were just gassing them to motivate them to move to a safer area, right?
Yes,
when you look at the video, and let's take a look at this video right now, it's absolutely amazing. See if this looks like they're just trying to move them to a safer area with their consent. You see them getting multiple tear gas canisters shot at them right there. They've got all their lights set up. I don't think that they wanted to move from that area.
No, not he was about to go do a live on there.
Yeah, they were, and if you look at this, you'll see Jakari Jackson right off on the right-hand side of the screen, just on the other side of that sign, running with them. Now, what is interesting is what happens afterwards. Now, they're not taking their camera equipment, actually. They're taking down the lights. They're turning down the lights. They don't want to have lights shown on what they're doing. But you'll also see as we move along on this video here, let's fast forward that up to the point where they come out there with the MRAP or the military vehicle. There they are. They're taking the lights down. And then after they do this, watch this guy goes back to the camera and he actually points the camera down. So he's leaving the most expensive piece of equipment up on the tripod, but he doesn't want it to record anything. So I don't think they were looking after them. I don't think they were helping them to move to another area so they could continue to film in another area. And they say that, and this is the last thing here, they say the position of the St. Charles County Sheriff's Department is that the media has a right to cover these events, and we support the freedom of press. And that's why, Leanne, they ordered everybody and threatened everybody they would be arrested if they didn't stop recording because they support freedom of the press.
Yeah,
this is Orwellian. This is
clear.
like North Korean level of absurdity that we're seeing from Fox News, putting out these press releases from the sheriff's office saying that they were just there helping the reporters in that area.
Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
I'm Joe Biggs with Infowars.com in Ferguson, Missouri. Right now, the riot police are standing beside us, right behind us. They have this entire bridge, this road blocked off.
You own the parking lot. This is the St. Louis County Police Department. Disperse now, or you will be arrested. You own the parking lot. This is the St. Louis County Police Department. Disperse now, or you will be arrested.
As you can see, tensions are high here in Ferguson because of what happened. The people are tired. People all over America are tired how cops kill and beat innocent people for no reason. This is what we have to look forward to all over the place. Look how quick, within a matter of days, they were able to go into a martial law status here in Ferguson.
I'm with here. I'm putting my life on the line for my people. I'm putting my life around for everybody in this country. I believe in equality. We have a right to assemble.
And why the cops tell us we can't be out here? Like you said, we have a right to assemble.
Martial law.
Our rights are being infringed on by the police every day. They have complete domain over us. They are like gods. If they tell you not to do something, you cannot do it. And if you do, they will treat you like a dog. You will be shot down. Well, at least for a black man. I'm not sure for everybody, but I do understand that. I hope it's not like that for everybody. It shouldn't be. It should not be like that for any human being to live on this planet.
We bleed the same blood. We are from the same descendants. There's no way one person can tell us, or one small amount of people can tell us what and what we cannot do. There's something as an actual people being unity, that's not something we cannot happen at all. At all.
Mike Brown! Mike Brown! Mike Brown! Mike Brown! Mike Brown! We are! Mike Brown! We are! Mike Brown! We are! Mike Brown! We are! Mike Brown! We are!
The citizens here are standing their ground and protesting and speaking about what they know, what they believe in. So far from what you heard, the people here are very educated. They know about their rights. They're just trying to get across their point that they're tired of this kind of stuff going on. As you can see behind me right now, they're riot police, linked armed, probably 60 to 70 armed personnel with tanks and armored vehicles behind them. They are ready to push through the town of Ferguson and completely lock it down. What is that? That's martial law. That's going to happen across our entire nation because our government doesn't care. This is crazy. This is what America has to look forward to if they do not wake up. Listen to me. Wake up. Stop sitting on your couch and being lazy. This kind of stuff can come to your town and happen in a second. Know your rights, know what you're able to do as an American, and stand up for that right.
We begin today with the latest out of Ferguson, Missouri, where protests and rioting over a deadly shooting continue.
You must disperse immediately.
Police continue to clash with protesters coming out onto the streets in outrage over the death of 18-year-old Michael Brown. Right now, the air here is filled with tension.
For a third night, police clashed with angry protesters in the street, firing tear gas. And now the FAA has been forced to ban some flights in the area because of gunfire. And new surveillance video shows the looting and chaos just after that shooting.
Police used tear gas and rubber bullets to send people home. Michael Brown's grieving parents are asking for peace.
Return to your vehicles. Return to your homes.
Go, let's go. We don't have time to ask questions. Let's go.
Several journalists were also allegedly physically assaulted by police. Officers stormed a McDonald's where Ryan Riley of the Huffington Post and Wesley Lowry of the Washington Post were working, telling them to stop recording and leave.
Let's go. You can move. Let's go.
One officer reportedly slammed a reporter's head against glass.
In suburban St. Louis, the scene that photographers captured looked like a police state. Using the same tactical get-up and the same weaponry we've come to expect in urban warfare in Iraq and Afghanistan, police in Ferguson, Missouri once again had to put down and head off violence in the streets.
Last night, in a show of force, police in riot gear used tear gas and beanbag rounds to disperse crowds.
Anger erupting yet again, so many families demanding answers. One protester right there preparing to throw a flaming bottle at a line of officers. And the front page of the St. Louis newspaper saying it all. A city on edge.
Anytime you have armed men taking you into custody, telling you that you're resisting arrest when you're clearly not resisting arrest, that's very frightening.
KSDK took these pictures of SWAT teams throwing tear gas toward a camera crew. When the crew ran for cover, watch as police point their camera to the ground.
The people that's being violent is the police.
As for their tactics, I can also tell you, you're right, not in recent memory. The chief said he's been doing this for 28 years. Not only has he never experienced anything like this, he says he's never even heard of anything like this in the St. Louis area, and he says they have not been able to even drill for anything like this.
For several nights this week, this was Ferguson, Missouri. Tanks, combat gear, assault rifles. It looked like a military operation.
You must disperse immediately.
And that's because police departments in the St. Louis area, like those across the country, are arming their officers with equipment once on the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan. In the past year, the Department of Defense has given local law enforcement over 600 MRAPs. Local police also get federal grant money to buy the military-style equipment. One recent study found the federal government has doled out more than $34 billion to local police departments since the September 11th terrorist attacks. But critics say local police aren't the military, that some of the equipment and tactics should not be routinely used against American citizens.
There are a lot of ways to look at this, but I'm thinking when you train a police officer to use military-style weapon from the battlefield, how are you changing that officer's psychological sense of what his duty is? It's sort of soldierizing, if I may coin a phrase.
Sure.
Maybe that's not such a good idea.
Do they see the people they're interacting with as an enemy?
We're here at 6 marching in solidarity nationwide. Demonstrations held in dozens of cities last night to protest the police killing of an unarmed black teenager in Missouri.
Chopper 2 hovered high above as thousands marched from Union Square to Times Square Thursday night, the protest calling for justice in the shooting death of Michael Brown, the case sparking outrage across the country.
I think it was a disgrace to this country and a disgrace to the people. And we here are, as the people of New York City, are outraged because even if it's happening in Missouri, it's happening everywhere.
While the Midtown protest was peaceful, the march did turn chaotic as officers tried controlling the flow of marchers with orange netting. At one point, several people were seen being taken into custody, but in the end, the NYPD says only 5 arrests were made.
Smoke first, and see if we can't disperse the crowd without having to throw gas.
Chaos erupting overnight as SWAT teams move in, responding to reports of a shooter at the Ferguson protests. Police in full riot gear, firing smoke canisters and tear gas to disperse the crowd.
You must disperse the area immediately. You are in violation of the state-imposed curfew.
A scene out of the Middle East in Middle America. Police finally taking control of the area and planning to remain out in full force.
We will still patrol the area. We'll have officers patrolling the area to make sure that our citizens are safe and our businesses remain healthy.
Supposedly, we're the masters and they're the servants. But you know, in Ferguson, they're telling people to back off 25 feet, get in this zone. They're violating their free speech rights. You have a right to walk up to a civil servant and say, sir, why are you doing this? Why are you here? They're pointing guns at people and chasing them away. That's not a policeman anymore. Again, that's the military, and that's what we're dealing with.
I got it, Jeff. I'm gonna go to the left side. Police department, third floor! Police department, third floor! Ah, hey, what? Coming through, fire! Go! Police department, third floor! Get down! Get down! With you! Need one! With you! Just relax. When I'm trying to couch,
An Iraq War veteran says Six Flags Great Adventure owes him an apology.
Well, the park turned him away in front of his wife and young children. He says park workers called the shirt he was wearing inappropriate.
Marine veteran Mario Alejandro says this shirt is patriotic. At Six Flags Great Adventure, staff told him it was inappropriate. What was your very first reaction when somebody said something to you?
I thought it was a joke.
When the guy said, hey, you can't come to this park, or can't come to the park because people will find this offensive, I thought it was a joke.
The shirt features an M16 in the colors of the American flag. What does this shirt mean to you?
With all the craziness that's going on in this world right now, I look at it as like if there was something happening around here, I'd be the first one to stand up.
Full-scale investigation is underway after SWAT officers raided a South Florida home with 3 children inside.
Bobby McClendon is outraged and demanding answers. He says his young nephew and son were left bloodied, bruised, and traumatized after the home the children were staying in was raided by SWAT.
And it's kind of strange how they would be so aggressive to children that aren't aggressive. And they tell him, get down, get down, get down. So as they telling him to get down, he's looking for a spot, to get down, at. And as he's looking for a spot, they hit him on the top of his head with their rifle.
And then there was 12-year-old Aaron McClendon. He was sleeping in the back room when he says he was forced out and then punched in the eye.
Yeah, I was pretty scared. According
to McClendon, officers went to the wrong house,